These three watches are my absolute favorites in the Flieger and field watch genres. They have their own areas of particular charm. They also have some overlapping features which make them fit into a single category, especially since they all sell around the $50 price point. Now, the Fliegers or pilot watches are popular for their classic utilitarian design that originated from military aviation. Their large, easy-to-read dials and simple yet robust construction appeal to enthusiasts who appreciate both functionality and heritage. Yet, both the field and pilot watches often share durable designs. With the large, easily readable dials, they prioritize functionality, featuring things like luminous hands for low light visibility and robust construction to withstand challenging environments. And hence, the pilots and the Fliegers, I sort of see them as, well, quite similar. Now, with these three watches, I have already reviewed them in detail on their own, and I've left the links to their comprehensive reviews in the description below the video, so check them out. Also, I've left the links to the listings where I got these watches from in the description below the video as well. So make sure to check these links out if you're after some sharp prices. Now, at the end of this particular video, after we've talked about the three watches, I will perform a Lume test with the three watches on video, so we can actually compare the brightness and longevity of the Lume. So that will be at the end of the video. And now let's get in and talk about these three watches. First up, we'll talk about the Berny, the titanium Berny, which actually gets a MecaQuartz. Then we'll talk about the Addiesdive, which is a homage to a Mark 20 from IWC. That's a very interesting watch as well. That's an automatic though, with anti-reflective coating, sapphire glass, all the usual. And then we've got a Tandorio field watch, which is very special. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. So with the Berny, we get sapphire crystal, anti-reflective coating, a titanium case and a titanium bracelet, 50 meters water resistance. Now here we do get unique lumed element styling, but as I mentioned, the Lume test will be at the end of the video. Now this watch is insidiously light, just 65 grams on this titanium bracelet, but if you were to go for a canvas strap, it would be as low as 40 grams. So the model here is T2566M. The dimensions of the watch are 37.3 millimeters in diameter, a lug-to-lug measurement of 43.4 millimeters, a height of just 8.6 millimeters, and a lug width of 20 millimeters, which tapers down to 17 at the clasp. It's a minimalistic design. Same goes for the crown at the 4 o'clock position. There are two distinct layers here. The basin sits flat on your wrist. The lugs fall off downwards, reducing the lug-to-lug length to the measly 43.4 millimeters. Now, if you take a look at how it looks at my 6.5-inch wrist, there is no overhang whatsoever here. With the bracelet, it's titanium. You get the same satin brushed effect as we see on the case, making the end links suit the lugs and case so seamless. We have inverted end links that provide accommodation to, well, basically any wrist size. With the dial, well, there are a few colors to choose from. You can go for the dark blue, the green, the beige or black. I went obviously for the green. Now personally, I found this green to go super well with the gray titanium. I think it sort of fits. Now the dial is matte, once again minimizing any reflections and prioritizing legibility on the dial. The dial is symmetrical. There is no date window. All elements are printed in contrasting white. I want to particularly talk about the movement here, considering this is the only watch out of the trio that doesn't get an automatic. Here we have the caliber VH31, which is a MecaQuartz movement. If we leave the technicalities aside, it basically allows for a sweeping seconds hand. So unlike most quartz watches that impulse with a ticking motion at just once per second, on the VH31 or this MecaQuartz, the seconds hand actually sweeps with 4 beats per second. It's slower than the 6 beats per second on the Seiko NH35, for example, but it's much smoother than the regular quartz, and we get this sweeping motion which sort of feels and looks like an automatic. The accuracy of this movement is plus minus 15 seconds per month and a battery life of 2 to 2.5 years. Let's be frank, this Berny looks extra special. The green dial, the titanium bracelet, completely whole titanium. These are solid links. It looks awesome. You've got a signed clasp, you've got 3 micro adjustments, and it's so light, 65 grams on a titanium bracelet. Great, you forget you're wearing it. And once again, 8.6 millimeters thin. This is pretty good stuff. Now, this watch cost me just $55. I think that's a very sharp price. So yeah, I will be leaving links to the listing I got this watch from in the description below the video. And now let's get in and talk about the Addiesdive. With the Addiesdive MY-H2, we get classic pilot watch aesthetics. We get a stainless steel bracelet and case, flat sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating for superb legibility. Here we get the automatic Seiko's NH35 self-winding movement. And then we get premium C3 Lume, which is actually around 10% brighter than BGW9 Lume. So there's 200 meters of water resistance here. So considering it is a pilot watch, we are still getting diving watch water resistance, which is pretty cool. We get a screw down case back and screw in crown here as well. The dimensions of the watch are a diameter of 39 millimeters, a lug-to-lug length of 48.8 millimeters, a lug width of 19 millimeters, tapering down to 17 millimeters at the clasp, and a height of 11.9 millimeters. The sub 40 millimeter diameter makes this an easy choice for everyday wearing. The stainless steel case gets even and fine brushing style across the case surface area. Now the bezel actually gets radial brushing to visually separate it from the case base. The case is strict and the layers are crisp and well defined. The modest lug-to-lug length is complemented with downward sloping lugs as well. So if you take a look at how it looks on my 6.5-inch wrist, there is no overhang of any kind. On the right we have a signed and screw-in crown. It's larger than average, it's not guarded, simple, utilitarian, and again strict. The links are constructed from 5 individual components on this bracelet. This creates a braided look. The tolerances are quite tight, but the bracelet drapes around the wrist very naturally. The inverted end links on the bracelet are a big plus. The overall look is solid, yet the individual links create a fluid look and feel. We get an unsigned clasp, but the safety latch and 3 micro adjustments do make this quite usable. As you glance at the face of the watch, you're met with a black matte dial. The indices, 12-hour numerals, and minute chaptering are all printed. These have a greenish/yellow tinge to them for clear contrast during the light hours. In the dark, the C3 Lume shines bright on the hour battens and the sword-style minute and hour hands. But once again, the Lume Test will be done at the end of the video in comparison to the 3 watches. Now with the crystal here, we get flat sapphire glass, which sits a hairline above the fixed bezel. Now the plus here, there's also anti-reflective coating. So to even further reduce the reflections on this watch, the Reho actually gets very fine brushing, but it's not mirror polished, and that is pretty good. So anti-reflective coating, matte black dial, really good legibility here. And you do get a bit of this size with this dial. Personally, I think this watch is, well, one of my favorites, as all 3 of them. But this one, there's something special, and I think it's all about this super fluid bracelet, which gets the 5 individual elements as well as the inverted end links. And now let's talk about number 3. So this is the field watch from Tandorio, and it's the only one on a non-metal strap. It actually comes on a genuine leather strap, which is very good indeed. Let me tell you all about it. So this Tandorio is a homage to the Hamilton hockey field. A watch aesthetic brimming with the vintage inspiration of a military watch. There is no date window, just a clean, purposeful and legible dial. It's pure military function first design. This Tandorio is on the smaller side though, at just 36mm diameter. But considering the military watches of the 1950s and 60s were usually 33, 34, maybe 35 millimeters, the 36 millimeters doesn't seem that small after all. The case is not bloated, it's lean, a solid stainless steel construction. The printed font looks like it was pulled from the mid-20th century. We get a flat slab of sapphire crystal on top, a screw-in crown and a screw-down case back. Also 200 meters of water resistance. So maybe for a pilot the 200 meters of water resistance is overkill, but for a field watch, for the challenging environments it's meant to be in, 200 meters of water resistance is great. We get a self-winding automatic movement, the Seiko NH35. Now do mind the actual strap here. This is high quality calf leather. It's stitched and has a proper genuine feel and look to it. So the dimensions here, a diameter of 36 millimeters, a lug-to-lug length of 47 millimeters, a height of 13 millimeters, and a lug width of 20 millimeters. The weight here is 105 grams. So when looking down at the watch, the beauty of it is clear. A well thought through design that very importantly is quite simple. The military need precision and utility. Well, that's what you get here. The strap is calf hide, the color is rich brown, there is contrast stitching at the inner and outer faces. This strap is quite thick, so the butterfly clasp is stainless steel, the wings are solid, holding the thick strap in place securely. With the crystal, we get a flat sapphire slab. It sits a hairline above the bezel. Now there's no anti-reflective coating here, but that is not a problem even in the sunny days, because the dial is matte black, the reflections and light play on the dial are quite subdued. On the actual dial, the minute and seconds track is just under the rehaut. There are no applied indices, all markings are printed. The 12-hour Arabic numerals are surrounding the smaller 24-hour numerals ring. The 12-hour numerals are actually in orange beige color and are distinct from the rest of the printed text in sterile white. The dial gets a subtle 3D look because of the recessed ring supporting the center and outer perimeters. The armband hands are in pencil styling and edged in chrome. So here we are, we've got three watches with us and they're all sort of similar but very different. One leather strap, one titanium strap, one stainless steel strap. Timekeeping in challenging environments. They're all about being highly legible. They're practical, robust, and I like that because obviously that does create value, especially since all of three of these watches cost sub $60. Now let's go to the Lume test and then we'll do a little summary. Now looking at the Lume at these three watches, definitely the Tandorio loses out. So that's the rightmost watch. In regards to the blue Lume on the Berny and the bright green on the Addiesdive, I think those two are equally as good, both bright. Well, I like the blue a bit more and I love the detail of the small numerals also being lit up on the Berny. Yet the bright green on the Addiesdive, it's beautiful, it's large. But what you will notice though is that there is a lollipop counterbalance on the Berny, while you can't really see the seconds pointer on the Addiesdive at all. But if we do talk about pilot watches, and considering the Berny and the Addiesdive are more pilot than field watches, then the Addiesdive actually gets the triangle with the two dots on the sides, while the Berny just gets the triangle at the 12 o'clock position. But as you can see, these three watches have pretty good lume. Bright, the longevity is very good, and again at the $50 price point, I think these three lumes are probably the better ones out there. So here we are at the end of this video. Now in my eyes, the Fliegers, the field watches, they are sort of similar because of that robust and practical nature. Now of course there are definitive differences. We know about them, but I mean the whole styling, the aesthetics, they are sort of similar. And these three watches, they are my ultimate favorites, well, from the watches that I have already reviewed on this channel in the Flieger and field watch genres. And of course they do bring massive value because they all cost in the $50 region. Now they all get sapphire crystal, not all of them get anti-reflective coating, but nonetheless, we get a titanium bracelet, titanium case. We get a stainless steel case and bracelet, and then we get this awesome genuine leather strap, rich brown. It's nice and thick, it's stitched. This is really good quality stuff. The designs are very robust, practical. Now, it's interesting though, because only one of these watches, the Addiesdive, gets a date window, but I think that fits because it's got the largest dials. On the smaller dials, I don't think the date really goes that well. Now, thank you for watching this review, comparison, and a summary of these three watches. Hopefully you find it interesting, useful. If you have, please check out the links I've left to the comprehensive reviews, as well as the listings of the watches in the description below the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.